listening to Xposed Living, Be Ageless, the podcast where we drop the masks, flip the script, and talk real life, real love, and real leadership unfiltered. I'm Stacey Vanthuyne, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and founder of the Xposed Living movement that's redefining what it means to live, lead, and grow at any age. We talk identity, reinvention, belief, and freedom from the bedroom to the boardroom. Yes, we go there. This is not about staying young. This is about waking up. So if you're done with the shoulds and craving more fun, more freedom, more truth, more you, then grab your favorite drink, your bestie, maybe your journal. It's time. Let's get exposed. Welcome back to Xposed Living. Today, I'm sitting down with someone whose work lives at the intersection of mindset, performance, creativity, and presence. But more importantly, someone who's lived the work, not just taught it. Wayne Lee has spent decades helping people access potential they already have, whether that's on stages, in organizations, or in moments of change where fear tends to take over. But today isn't about the highlight reel. It's about the human behind the message, the risks, the recalibrations, the identity shifts, and the moments where belief had to come before evidence. Wayne, I'm so glad you're here. We have been starting to talk a little bit before, and honestly, Wayne and I just got right into it. I was like, I gotta press record. Do share with me, Wayne. First of all, thank you.
We're getting into the gold nuggets, right? We're getting into the nuggets. We have to make sure we don't miss those.
I know. It was like, this is going to be a really fluid, amazing conversation. I can feel it already, and the audience is going to have a treat. So I just asked you, Wayne, share with me before you were the speaker. You actually asked me, have you ever been to a hypnosis show? And I was like, long time ago. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Well, that's what changed my life. That's what actually impacted me to become a hypnotist. Yet there's a backstory before that, because all roads led to that place where I'm watching a hypnosis show in disbelief going, this is unbelievable. And yet there was something that got me to believe that there was something really powerful, which I'll share in a moment. But a long time ago, like I was mentioning, I was involved in the sport of amateur wrestling. And with that, I had no plan on being a wrestler, but I had a very persistent phys ed coach or phys ed teacher that pulled me into the wrestling room and said, you're going to wrestle. So for the first, half year, I was beaten up, definitely would have quit if I had a choice, but he stuck with it. So hats off to the coaches, inspirers, the leaders, the teachers that keep people going not to quit, because sometimes they have a lot more belief than we do in ourselves, especially as kids. But then very fortunate to be surrounded with a group of great wrestlers. And then I started to learn the techniques, learn the mindset, and was exposed by a lot of these coaches that I had to visualize and to do guided imagery, to do goal setting. And I didn't realize how powerful it really was until I got into high school. And as I was mentioning, one of the first books that I picked up that really spoke to me was by a lady named Stacey Wayne, called Creative Visualization. And as I read that book, it just spoke to me in regards to what I was experiencing in wrestling. So knowing that how powerful the mind is in producing the results before you even get them, before you even take action. So it validated what I was doing in wrestling. And specifically in wrestling, this is the story I tell on my stage when I'm doing presentations or my interactive keynote, is about how my coach Glenn in grade 10 asked me how well I wanted to do. And so I'm in Sherwood Park at one of the best wrestling clubs in Canada. It was like a dynasty. So surrounding myself with great people, and Glenn asked that one question. And my response was, well, I want to do well. And he's like, no, specifically, how well do you want to do? And it just came out of me. I said, I want to make it into the finals of the Canadian National Wrestling Championships. And I was scared because I'd never been at the nationals. I'd never been at that level, but something inside of me just popped. It was like an excitement level of that's where I'm going to set my goal. And I think a lot of people are scared to even name what they want because they are also thinking, what if I fail? Mm-hmm. So, but for me, I set it out there. So then Glenn proceeded to say, he said, Wayne, here's what you have to do. He said, you have to train 5 days a week. You got to wrestle with these wrestlers. And one other thing. And so what's that? He said, this is important. He says, every day you got to visualize as if you've already achieved that goal. And so I took it to heart and I was willing to do whatever it took. And I think that's a really profound commitment, is having that statement, am I willing to do whatever it takes? And so every day I'd visualize myself in the finals. I could see myself, I could picture it, but more than that, I could feel it in my body. It was very kinesthetic. I remember in math class in grade 10, my body would be twerking and turning. And needless to say, I didn't do well in math that year.
They're like, what's wrong with you? Sit so still.
But I did pretty good in wrestling. Fast forward to like all these tournaments, losing, winning, but kept that visualization going. And finally I get to the tournament and I win my first 3 matches. I was scared to death. I mean, it was just these nerves, but I just pushed through it. And the visualization definitely helped me calm myself and just practice, obviously. Then I'm wrestling the next match. And if I win that match, I get into the finals and I would win, I would achieve my goal. So I was stoked. And the person I was wrestling was a lot more experienced, a lot stronger. But I'm just thinking to myself, I'm going to make it into the finals. I'm going to make it. That was my mantra. That was my hypnotic command, which I didn't know or call it a hypnotic command. Now I know they're all hypnotic commands. And I also, just had this visual image of me making it in. And so the match ended up in a 3-all tie, and it was sudden death overtime. And so I had a minute with my coach Glenn, and to this day I have no idea what he told me, because all I'm thinking is I'm going to make it into the finals. I was in a trance state. That's a trance state where you're on autopilot, just focused in on repetition of a particular mantra or an image. So I get back on the mat, the whistle blows, we go grappling out of bounds. I come back on the mat and the ref raises my hand. And I got the point going out of bounds, didn't even know how I did it, but I did it and I was ecstatic. I made it into the finals. Now it gets better, or maybe it gets worse, because the next day I'm going for the gold medal. And the person that I'm wrestling, I actually beat at a previous tournament. So I'm like, I got this. Step on the mat, whistle blows, and guess what? I lost. And I was devastated because I made the goal of getting into the finals, which was awesome. And that was short-lived because I was like, I'm gonna win the gold here. Glenn then said, well, do you know what you did all year long, right? And I'm like, well, you're the coach, tell me. He goes, what did you focus upon all year long? And then it hit me. I focused in on getting into the finals, but not winning the gold. I programmed myself. And now looking back, that's exactly what I did, is hypnotize myself. And then Glenn proceeded to say, people a lot of times feel like they're broken or they're not enough. They need to be fixed. He said, that's never the case. He said he has a belief that people are always enough. The only thing that needs to be fixed is their focus. And that was profound, because now really that's what I'm teaching people in life, is how to fix their focus so they feel empowered and they follow through on their actions. The end of the story is that Glenn then asked me, he says, what do you want to do next year? I said, I want to win the gold. And so for the 3 years in a row, I'd won the gold at nationals. And it really was about setting the intention in the mind, and not to mislead people here either. Then it's about putting in all the work. I don't know one person that's hyper successful that just visualizes. The mind body are connected. They're one. And so when you visualize, it sets the performance in motion. People that now with the new age stuff coming out, it's like, oh, I'll visualize all this will happen. They want it easy. Mm-hmm. But if they submit that life's hard and that's the juice and the accomplishment that comes from it, then they become free, because they realize that they have to put in the work. And that comes from a place of desire and heart and loving it, as opposed to avoidance and just wanting something simple.
Goodness. So good. There's so many different places I want to go to. And it's interesting because you and I were talking about right before that we have children around the same age, and that sense of desire and knowing what you want. And I feel there's so many distractions for adults, for Gen X, and as well as, and I think that level of being able to focus now has gone so far off for people.
There's a great book. It's called Stolen Focus.
Hmm.
And it's all about how technology and the social media platforms and all of that is just the big distraction. Now, there's two ways to look at it too, is that people can be a victim to that and say, oh, I can't do this because of all the social media. Or you can make a choice and you can be a victor and say, well, I choose to do this. Nowadays, as we're doing this podcast right now, this can go out to the world and be shared by millions. It can be inspiring. It can make an impact. So at our fingertips, we have this great technology to advance business, to advance personal success. And it's all about intention. There's two sides to the coin. People can be scrolling all day, myself included, and be distracted more than ever. Or I can use it for advancing myself in areas of my life and being more excellent.
So true. And I think that intention does come from, I want to go back. You said, I I also believe that many people know what they want, but they're afraid to admit it in case of failure. And I think that especially with people even our age who have achieved a certain level of success, and then that comfort wins because you can so easily gauge what you can lose, but not always visualize and see that end game. And you learned at an early age that, it is about seeing it, embodying it. And when I embody it, do the work. And guess what? It can happen. But there was like you said, that you didn't win the first time. It could have been looked as a failing, but it really was just that learning to know what to do better next time with intention. So share with me some of the stuff that you do through the work that you do and how you help people, whether that's with gaining understanding of what they want or they're living with intention, visualizing with intention, hypnosis. Tell me.
Yeah, well, it's all about high performance. I mean, I go back to my roots of, how do people take action? People can talk a good talk, they can not necessarily walk the walk. So it's about all of what you just said. It's about goal achievement, high performance, and mindset. And there's two things that would be, if I boiled it down, it would be these two things that are most important: mental clarity, knowing what you want, knowing what's in there that may be distracting you, some of the things you got to clean up in your mind, and emotional control. So emotional control is, we're all emotional beings and our emotions drive our performance. The setting your goal and the intention of what you want is the first step. And a lot of people will do that. And just backing up what you said, most people don't know what they want, but also most people are led by other people what they want. So they're chasing the mighty dollar or they're seeing this big shiny object. And they need to go through a lot of that to find out what's their heartfelt desires. And so they don't compare themselves. So that's all the mindset beliefs that are going on. But again, the simplest way to do it instead of getting really complicated is very simple, that I learned from a mentor, is decide what you want and write it down. Full stop. Most people don't decide, nor do they write it down. So if you do that, you're way ahead of everyone. And let's stop comparing. Just say for yourself, if you're listening, decide what you want, write it down, get excited about it. Be like a little kid, because at the end of getting whatever you want, there's going to be what's next. And so it is about the journey. It is about, the character of what somebody becomes, who they are, and what they share with the world. And the longer I live, and now being a parent, looking at my kids, the more that I want that for them. My wife and I were just talking the other day. We were laughing because I think it comes down to, we just don't want our kids to be assholes.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I called mine an asshole the other day. You're such an
We
asshole.
want to be a character with values, with kindness, with, and then, it's, I'm kind of going off side here
I like it.
on a tangent, but at the same time, it aligns to what I'm talking about in terms of being yourself, being real, having those values. And, for people to know what they want, write it down. It comes from a place of passion and purpose and drive. At one point, like looking back and me asking the question, like, why did I wrestle? Like, why did I, and, I could name intellectually a number of reasons, like, well, it was a success, it was a camaraderie, it was accomplishment. I just can boil it down to, there was this feeling of wow, this obsession of why did it? Like, go for it. And I like to say the why, the WHY, is an acronym for your wonderful heart's yearning. And that yearning, sometimes you don't know intellectually, yet you just have a passion. For me, I know now I can say I've always been this entertainer. I've always wanted to entertain. I always wanted to please. And those are uh, two qualities, good quality, bad quality, in the sense of the people pleasing element allowed me to make people happy, but at the expense of what? Of me maybe compromising my own values. So as we're blessed with all these, it's learning who you are and being able to be more of that.
It's interesting because there was a time, and I want to share this so you can maybe take it your own way, that I remember, or when you go to a lot of these things, they say to people, just be your authentic self. Just be your authentic self. And it seemed like that. And I'm like, when somebody asked me, I started to think about this. Who's my authentic self? I've been this person for so long, this person for this. I'm a recovering people pleaser myself. I think many of us are, because we've been taught that validation comes from outside of us, and we get rewards and then we feel good. And that's why, again, you said, most people aren't even making up their own decisions or asking if their friends or their family, if they think it's a good idea, and it's not even their dream or their why. But we've been conditioned for this. And what is something, because I love the advice that you give to right now, is saying, figure out what it is that you want and write it down. But how do they even think of a why that builds that desire, or what they want build that desire? Because a lot of people instantly think, well, I don't know how to do that, so it's not for me, and they dismiss it. So that's why I always say, I think that people know what they want, but they dismiss it before they allow themselves to actually write it down and get emotionally involved in it. Have you found that, or how do you help people get through that?
I think, and just so I'm understanding you, there's a lot of people, do they doubt themselves? Is that what you're saying? Is that they don't even know how to get started?
Yeah, I think they doubt themselves. I don't even think that they're admitting to themselves what their true want is.
And what would be
Because
the reason for that?
I believe a lot of people, they think that if they don't know how to get it, then it's not possible for them, because they haven't used their mind like you have and see themselves with it. So it's so much easier to think of all the reasons why we can't than why we can.
Yeah. And I would say go back, look at people's experiences of when they first started, say, even in their childhood, of when they started to do something. They didn't know how to do it, but they learned how to do it. So knowing that I can learn how to do this, I can figure it out. And I think those are hypnotic commands that are very powerful. The coaching program that I have that, we developed during COVID, which was a pivot for us. One of the master programs that underlines, I think, people starting off in a place of being open, being curious, being excited, is that I'm already whole, complete, and perfect. So that comes from a place of not lack, but a place of I'm already here, I exist, and I'm going to create on my terms. So I think there's a part of it too that, if people are doubting themselves or they don't know how to do it, part of me wants to say, get over it. Who are you to stop sharing your gifts to the world?
This is right. You're insulting your own potential.
Yeah. And it is about a perspective shift in terms of that you're always learning. Get excited about learning, get excited about life. And that's one of the questions that I ask too, is what excites you? What gets you excited? Because again, the whole process of overthinking it is usually stemming from a self-doubt or a limit of potential in regards to what people think they can do or they can't do, and they're keeping themselves safe.
It's a hypnotic command, that how you position it, kind of like an I am statement, or is that like with you?
Yeah, it's a personal program, an I am statement. The challenge or the difference between somebody that's repeating I am, a lot of times their brain will go BS, and they try to pump themselves up when their brain is fighting it because they have this old program that's saying they're not enough. So they're trying it. So the conscious mind is that decision making part, which is all day long we're making decisions, we're taking the world in, we're analyzing it. And the subconscious is just a name that we give it. Some people call it unconscious. It's just a particular assignment of a label that we've given it. But I think it's our access point to unlimited potential pure power. Depends if you're religious, spiritual, you can use other names, but it's our access to unlimited potential, unlimited power. And it also holds all of our habits and our memories. And there's three functions that I have come to believe that the subconscious has. The three main functions, and I call it the GPS. So it always lets you know where you're going. So the G we're going to get back to in a moment, but the P is that it protects you. So we have a survival mechanism. Most people know that, at a certain level, there's a survival mechanism. We're here to be alive. Now, some people can go down this dark road and they realize that's it for them and they maybe take their life. But most of the time we realize we're protecting ourselves. We've got this built-in mechanism. That's why we scream in front of these scary movies, or we hear loud noises. So it keeps us safe. Mm-hmm. The S is that it supports us in being right. So at a very early age, if you learn that getting love is being hit, being spanked, being all this, then you're going to equate that to the meaning that you make out of life. So at a very, very early age, I know my stepdad was a very successful man, and he would never, ever allow anybody to pay for the meal when he took people out. So when I was sitting down at the table at a young age, and we were all out for dinner, I went to grab the bill to see what the bill was. I was very curious, and he slapped my hand. He says, "Don't you ever do that again." And it shook me, but it also reinforced that I made this connection that you should be paying for everybody. It was just a weird sensation. Now I look back and I'm like, every time I go out for dinner, I want to pay for everyone. Well, how does that show up else in my life? Well, I want to take care of everyone in my life, even at the cost of maybe my family or maybe my own benefit.
Right.
I'm giving things away. Yeah. And it's crazy how we make meanings out of that.
So true.
So it supports you in being right. It's the old Henry Ford adage of like, whether you're right or
you
wrong,
can or you can't.
You can't, you're right? Whatever you believe. I also believe, and this is what a lot of people in the research that I've done or the books that I've read and my own experience, is that underneath it all, there's a guidance. So that's the G. There's a guidance. There's an intelligent guidance in the subconscious. And that guidance is, you can call it intelligence, you can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want. But when somebody says, this is what I want, and they have beliefs that are countering that, you'll always feel the guidance of discomfort, of lack of flow, of anxiety, of angst. So if you look at that and you can appreciate that this is a beautiful gift, this is a beautiful focusing factory that we've been given, and a lot of people just aren't using it because they don't know how to use it, that operating system, and to get aligned. So when you're aligned, you reach this place of what we call flow. And flow is an acronym for feeling love or feeling life operate within.
Very nice.
People are tuned in and tapped into that. They are excited. They are empowered. They are joyful. Use emotional words. Going back to what I first said is emotional control. Emotional control isn't stopping all of the angst and frustration. It's welcoming it, actually. And then learning how to utilize it. It's learning how to take that anger and make it into empowerment, to take that doubt and turn it into faith, and knowing and believing that it's all a choice. Can you tell I'm getting a little excited?
Honestly, I'm right with you. I was like, because you're speaking to my soul, and I just love the way you're positioning these types of things because, first of all, and then you said, truly, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Like we create the limits on our own selves. We look outside of ourselves for these things, but we're at cause for everything. I found it actually interesting. Yesterday I was at this networking thing and someone said, "Oh, this so-and-so, she's like a really good manifester." And I just kind of giggled to myself, right? Because like people want to take credit for when they manifest what they want, but everything else that comes in their lives, like relinquish responsibility. And it's like, don't you get it? Everything in our lives, we are all amazing manifestors. There's not something in our lives that we didn't do in some level with it, right? And to your point, I think I always say our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. It responds to the feeling that you're doing. And if you're thinking more of the why not than why yes, even though if you set the goal to do something else, it's not going to go, oh, it's like, here's an example. If somebody wants to get out of debt, I would say the worst goal you can set is to get out of debt, think debt, get more debt. So it's interesting of like what you want to do with that freedom, that financial wealth, abundance that's coming to you, and focus more on that than the debt. And so when you say these things, I'm right along with you. And I'm curious from your perspective, working with thousands of people that you have, and your knowledge is extensive. You can tell you flow it so sweetly. So thank you so much. What's the most common belief you see that keeps, high achieving people, capable people playing smaller than they need to?
Well, one belief that keeps coming up, especially when I was coaching more people individually, and now I still take on a few coaching clients at an executive level, and it doesn't matter how successful they are, it's about beating themselves up. And that usually sounds like I shouldn't be thinking that thought. And that thought, believe it or not, is a thought that stops them from flowing that flow, from being that, instead of owning it. Like you said, taking responsibility is that it's okay to think those thoughts. And just, there's that saying is don't fight it, feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Feel
what
it.
you resist persists kind of thing.
Yeah, and engage in all of it. And if you look at, say, people that are very successful and fulfilled, they own everything. They own the good, the bad, the ugly, and more than that, they may not be proud of that, but they're not hiding it. To make something fully disappear, you got to fully experience it.
Mm.
Right. And so that's, I think, a big part of it is that self-limiting belief. And as we took a lot of people through our coaching program during COVID, again, that was a belief that kept coming up, is that I shouldn't be thinking that thought. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Well, no, actually you should, because you are.
Yeah.
And it's exactly it. And now it's about, well, what do I want now? Where do I want, what is next? Right.
Right. Oh, I like that.
There's a addition to the hypnotic commands that we're giving ourselves. It's also the way that we converse with ourselves. And just to clarify, hypnosis is really just effective communication. It's the power of influence. It's about the non-critical acceptance of an idea into your subconscious. We have this resistance, which is our survival mechanism, which is also part of that subconscious. And when we understand that when we resist, we actually shut out the world from growing. You heard about the growth mindset? Well, it's about being open to learning and reframing failure into just learning and to growing. And if you look at any highly successful person, they've failed more times than the people that haven't stepped forward, right?
That's it.
They just frame it differently and they're okay with it. And they take life easier, simpler, and they're light about things. Adding to the how we talk with the I am statements, the other part of the conversation is the questions that we ask ourselves. And I say, are you asking yourself problem questions or possibility questions? And so a great question, because as a hypnotist, if you see me on stage and I get people into a state of trust, I can just give them a direct command. Like, when you hear the next piece of music, you're the greatest dancer in the world. And they'll have a piece of music and they'll act as if they're the greatest dancer in the world. I can't always say they are, yet they,
in their mind,
without hesitation, without inhibition, they just do their thing, right? But if I told somebody off the street, oh no, you're great, you're awesome. A lot of times if they have a lot of self-doubt and self-disbelief, they're going to just reject what I told them. It's like a parent telling to their kid something, they need to hear it from someone else, right? So really, hypnosis is just the art of getting past resistance to give a suggestion. So a great question, and I call it the win question. If you haven't picked up already, Stacey, I'm really fascinated with words and I create acronyms out of them. But it also
I think it's fantastic. I mean, it
so
is
WIN. There's a framework that I teach, but the first framework is a question, WIN, and it's what if now? So when somebody says, oh, I just doubt myself. Well, what if now you didn't? What if now you could do this? What if now? And it's not about you giving them a suggestion. It's about asking a question that creates possibility. So when people come to their own conclusion about an idea, that's powerful. And that's really hypnosis, is people thinking it was their idea. And it's the same thing when people are buying something and they're like, wow, that was great. And I'm going to buy this car. Well, a really good salesperson listens, feeds back, information that aligns to maybe what they want to hear and takes them into a direction of influence.
So they're like, oh, that's my idea. This is a great
Yeah.
idea,
Yeah.
right? It's
What
interesting.
if now you really could pay off that debt? What if now can be used also both ways? Because a lot of times people like as if, right? Like as if. But what if creates possibilities?
I love that. I'm going to incorporate that. So I have a question for you. When I was doing some research on you, not only were you doing the wrestling, but did you hurt your neck? Like, did you actually heal yourself? And can you share a little bit of this?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's one of the parts of my story that I don't tell a lot. So I'm glad you asked it, because when I won those national championships, my big goal, my end game
Yeah.
was to make the Olympics.
Okay.
And so I was devastated around 18, 19, where I had a really serious neck injury. So I herniated my C5, C6, C7, and I lost all strength and even feeling in my right arm. And then it went to my left arm. And I went to get all of the scans, the tests, MRI, all of it. And it showed that I needed surgery. And I still remember the doctor saying, you need surgery. Here's the x-rays. And I was scared. I was devastated. And more than that too, I was like, well, what is this going to mean for wrestling? Like, if I get the surgery, can I go on? He says, well, it's a 50-50. And one of the things I never stopped doing is I never stopped visualizing. I never stopped seeing myself on the mats. It wasn't that I specifically was consciously healing myself with all of the healing in my neck, but I focused in on something that excited me. I focused in on something that I loved, which was wrestling, and I could feel it in my body. And I honestly believe when a doctor, in my experience, says it's not going to regenerate, you need surgery. And then 6 months, when I was supposed to have surgery, they retest my strength and check everything. And they said, you don't need surgery. So for me, it was a testament to like, what happened? Like, why did that happen? And so I really believe that there is a profound healing within ourselves. And that's probably the most powerful pharmacy that we have, is our own bodies and mind. And yet a lot of times people are disempowered because they always are looking to outside of themselves, and nothing discrediting the Western and the Eastern and pharmacy. I think it's all part of the whole creation method and what we can use it for. But for me, that was my experience. And then I went on for another year or two in wrestling, and it still wasn't like the same. I lost a lot of desire, but it was also, and so I never did make the Olympics. So I went into teaching, became a teacher. And then as I was becoming a teacher and started to teach, that's where I'd seen the hypnosis show in a nightclub. And it changed my world, because I'm watching this hypnosis show. There was something missing in my life. I mean, I was coaching, I was teaching, but I wasn't on the mat. I wasn't in the spotlight. And I knew that was part of my makeup. And so as I'm watching the show, like, it's incredible seeing these people doing weird, wacky things on stage. And I'm like, and then the hypnotist, and I'm there with my girlfriend at the time. And so the hypnotist gave a suggestion where everybody on stage lost their belly buttons.
Oh, hilarious.
And so all these people are looking for their belly buttons, and I am dying laughing. But I didn't hear anything from my girlfriend. So I turned and I looked at her, and there she was looking for her belly button. So she got hypnotized right next to me. And that's what validated that there's something real about this. And so my question, that possibility question, was, I want to know what this is all about. What is this all about? And that was the door that opened, and it never closed. It just, and I entered this room of curiosity. It was back in the 90s where there was no internet at the time, really. So I was in the library, I was researching, I was watching other hypnotists. I just did everything I could to start out on this road of being a self-taught hypnotist, which then taught me that if you really want to do anything bad enough, you'll find a way. And I think that backs up to the point of where people think like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do it. It's like, take on the belief that if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. There's always a way. And you will. By having that mindset, you'll start to attract the people, places, things, events, opportunities as if by magic. And the real magic is you. And so from that point, it just was something that I started to do individual little hypnosis sessions with people that I would have at parties. And then that grew into a bigger show at a place called the Sidetrack Cafe in Edmonton years ago. And I'll never forget, I did a show and I was so abrupt and so unpolished, but a lot of people got hypnotized. And it was at that night I said, I want to do this. Like, I really want to do this. And so I transitioned out of teaching after a year, and then I went on the road, and that was 30 years ago.
Wow. Honestly, you have to come back on and we do a show where you just hypnotize us, because now I'm just like, okay, I want you to hypnotize me.
Well, the next one I can take people through what I've taken hundreds of thousands of people through, which I call it the Mega Method.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the mental endgame activation method.
Endgame activation.
I know you're a big believer in your identity, and your subconscious identity has to fit what you want. And most people are thinking about what they want, but their identity doesn't match that. And as you mentioned, your imagination and reality, your subconscious doesn't know the difference. So the great thing is that you can supersede, you can see yourself as already being that person, and then you will act as if to get those results by performing, creating the habits, creating the things that you need to do. And so it's a 6-minute exercise that people see themselves as feeling as though they've already achieved that goal. And then they attach that to something very simple, which we call a mind trigger, which is a color, putting their hand to their heart, and a fist bump with a yes. So any of those will get themselves back to that feeling state so they perform better. And so many people, I mean, it's just great that I've gotten emails, I've gotten people telling me how they went through that years ago and how it, stuck with them to run the marathon or to achieve their professional status as a speaker, whatever it was. It's just,
Right.
I get a kick out of it just because I love being on stage doing it. And then these people are unlocking their brilliance.
Well, like you said, honestly, when you said the real magic is with you, I was just like, mic drop. This man is incredible. If people want more of Wayne Lee in their lives, Wayne, where can they find you?
My website is probably the best to lead people. So just waynelee.com. It's got all the social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. A lot of my work now is focusing upon corporate events. So companies and organizations to have a mind-blowing experience, whether it be entertainment or my interactive keynote, that is all focused upon the subconscious side of high performance.
I love it. I love it. So typically, Wayne, I end these shows with kind of like a fire round question of 5 questions, just to get a little bit more. Are you ready to wrap it up with some fire round?
I'm ready. Even if I'm not, I act as if I am.
That's right. You're coming from the goal.
Yeah.
All right. So share with me, what is the most underrated Gen X skill?
So the most underrated Gen X skill is the ability to focus, to stay focused upon an activity for 20 minutes.
Good. Magic or discipline?
You will have to, for me, it's always magic. But part of magic.
Like, I think this is like, I wrote these actually before meeting you, and how would we know that we're going to end with that? But like, seriously, man.
And here's the meaning behind magic. And I know you want maybe short answers.
No, I love it. Go ahead.
Magic is also about, here's the acronym, manifesting any goal into creation.
Oh, good. I mean, it really is this. Legacy or presence?
Both. Yeah. So legacy is, how do you want to be remembered? And I think it's a very, very important question for people to answer so they can then see how they want to leave the world in terms of the value that they've given, the impact, the influence, and how to put that in perspective is being present. It's such a powerful skill. And I mean, going back to the focus, I'd have to say the little shift is being present is the skill that is hard to come by nowadays for a lot of people. And saying that I have that to wrap it up is plan for the future and live in the now.
This wasn't one of them. I have two left for you, but share with me your most unique experience that ever happened in a hypnosis show. I'm kind of curious about this. I mean, no belly button is weird, but like, I know you got one for me.
When I used to do shows years ago at K-Days,
Okay.
and there was a nightclub show, so it was more of the uncensored type show. There was a little skit that I used to do where I'd say a word and the guy would stand up and say, "Oh my God, I've got VD." Back in the day, it was VD. And this other lady that would be hypnotized, she would stand up and say, "I'm a nurse. I can help. I can help." And so then she would proceed to go over and go undo this fellow's pants. And that's where I'd say, "Wake up." And that's the punchline. He's like, "Oh my goodness, like, what am I doing?" But she didn't wake up. She wanted to take this guy's pants down. And this guy was a good looking soap opera type guy. And she took those pants down. He didn't have any underwear. And this guy was not, put it this way, this guy was well endowed. And so for me, I'm freaking out because I'm like, you can't have nudity on stage. This is, I know it's an adult event, and so I'm, trying to cover up, and then, he got his clothes on, everything fine. And then I thought, I'm going to be, in trouble after. And so it was a time, this is kind of like how long ago it was. We used to videotape with the VHS tapes. We used to sell them after. And so these two elderly ladies, they must have been in their 70s, maybe 80s. They were coming up to us, and I thought, oh, I'm going to hear it from them.
They wanted to
And they
buy
came
it?
up and they said, "Wayne, we were at last night's event, and we got the VHS tape of the show. Can we change it in for tonight? Can we exchange it?" So that just put a chuckle on my face, and it always got me to remember something crazy that happened on stage. Now,
That is
corporate audiences and buyers and people that want events, I don't do those shows anymore. I learned by it, and that was obviously in an adult environment, not a corporate type setting. Where
Oh, sure. No, just teasing. Honestly, that is so funny. You always have those ones. It's like, bam. Okay. The last one for you. Ageless living. What does that mean to you?
it's a mindset of being vibrant, being vital, and having a thought, more of a belief that I'm just getting started.
That's right. This is like our launchpad to soar. I'm so grateful, Wayne, that you joined us today. Honestly, going for a long time. Thank you for bringing the depth, the honesty, the humanity into this conversation. You live your work. It's like so obvious to see. It's self-leadership. This is what it looks like to stay relevant, grounded, and fully alive in a world that's moving so fast. I love the things you brought for us today. All the acronyms, I've taken tons of notes. I know that the audience will benefit from it. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today on Xposed Living. And to anybody out there, make sure you get a hold of this man. He's dynamite. Thanks.
It was a blast.
Thank you.
So much fun.
Good. Awesome. That's what it's supposed to be. All right. Till next time, my friends, stay bold, stay beautiful, and stay.
That's it for today's episode of Xposed Living, Be Ageless. But this is just the beginning. If this episode made you feel something, share it. Tag me. Send it to a friend. Let's start the conversation we can be having all along. No shame, no guilt. Unfiltered, raw, real, exposed. And if you're ready to go deeper, join us inside the Xposed Living Facebook community, where we take this work off the podcast and into real life. Know this. Your change starts when your excuses die. Because this life, this one wild, ageless, unforgettable life is waiting on you. This is your time. This is your truth. This is Xposed Living.